Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, welcome to Murkwood Township. Now that's Murk with a U, as in murky, as in things aren't going the best for Mirkwood, and that is due to the negligence of Governor Frugal himself. As long as his coin purse is full, he doesn't care about the goings on in the rest of town. This is just a slice of Mirkwood, by the way. But as you can see, it is primarily dominated by this arena. Now, you thought Trajan was big about his games? Oh no. Governor Frugal is a daily game connoisseur. We have lines of potential tournament contestants lined out the gate. There's a whole lot going on. So what's going on here, folks? This is Dicey Depths, my own personal custom rule set. It's a very simple tabletop role-playing war game hybrid kind of system. You have a hero, you create their stats, and you go through a series of encounters. No dungeon master required. That way I can play too. So what do we have here? We have several parts of town. This is one adventure. It's a 3-part adventure. Murkwood Township itself is part 1. Pirates of Murkwood Cove is part 2. Stay tuned because we're going to take a look at that adventure. And then scenario 3 is the Dungeon of the Dracolich or the Dracolich. I posted a little aside. I posted a thing on Facebook to say, is it Dracolich or Dracolich? And it was split like down the middle, 50-50. Half said Draco, half said Draco. Everybody was given good, evidence to support their side. I think I'm leaning towards Dracolich, but I do catch myself saying Dracolich. But anyway, so that would be Adventure 3. Stay tuned. We're going to take a look at that because Adventure 3 is underneath here. It's a whole huge Dwarven Forge dungeon. And I went old school, like my original Dwarven Forge dungeon video on YouTube where I had the black cardstock over every room to reveal it room by room. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. Anyway, but the adventure starts here in Murkwood Township. And one of the big things that the players, the heroes, will be doing is getting involved in the tournament if they wish. They don't have to. But there's definitely gold and some cool items to be won if they do well in the tournament. And as you can see, now I wish, this is one of my pet peeves, there is not a really good combat arena that I'm aware of, at least not pre-painted or, anything like that, that I'm accustomed to or that I favor for miniature wargaming. So I had to use these Goblin Village palisades and some other buildings to kind of fill in the gaps. And then I made the ramparts out of just a bunch of stuff. Monster terrain, Dwarven Forge railings. And it doesn't look too bad. We have the guy in the center there. Of course, he's directing his attention to all the nobles in attendance, while the poor folks in the back are just kind of being neglected. But don't worry, the action is going to be good for everybody. We even have a drunk in the cage there as well. So we have a lot going on, not in just the arena, but also the marketplace. This is where, in Dicey Depths, you can also work for a living. Go chop wood, fish, help gather crops, mine for ore, and hunt for meat. And then we check the daily rates in the marketplace for what all of that will do. And you can level up your skill in any of those trades and sell the goods to earn some money, because there are a lot of fantastic items to be purchased in the marketplace. Inventory changes daily. Here's the inn. Here's the good old Mirkwood Inn and Tavern. They like to do a lot of their celebrating outdoors, especially when games are going on in the arena, which, again, did I mention is every day. Blacksmith. You can level up your weapon, get it sharpened at the blacksmith, but everyone's having a good time there. Only costs 1 gold for the entire party. Of course, everyone's going to share a room, I assume. We have a room all set up in there for the party as well. I didn't put interiors in all of the buildings. Obviously, this miniature building authority blacksmith already came with an interior. But I just did that just in case, to show that that's where we would be in the inn. Wanted board. So here we go. Bulletin board with tasks for sale. It's a bounty board. We have these bounties. So this is another way we can earn experience and money there will be 2 of these per day. And if the players take them or don't take them, they'll also rotate as well. So we just have a whole bunch of bounties that we can go after as well. So to recap, adventure part 1 of Murkwood Township is there's going to be a huge 16 man and woman tournament in the arena. There are also bounties to collect on. There's an inn to stay at, a blacksmith to improve our weapons, a marketplace to buy and sell goods. And I do have some of our bounty people over here on this little thing. So when we actually do a bounty battle, we'll put it over on something else. And then we can return to town. Once we've sufficiently done as much as we want to do in town, then it's time to go over to encounter number 2, which is the Pirates of Murkwood Cove. So after the good governor himself has had his fill of the games and was impressed by the players, win, lose, or draw, he's going to approach them about that task, and it's going to behoove them to assist because, and I'll explain in a second when we actually pull up the cove, but yeah, he's been lax. Pirates have kind of taken over the harbor. So that's what he's going to do, and the party will then do that next. And then, of course, they can always return back to the village, spend anything they found in that adventure in the marketplace or at the blacksmith, and heal themselves up at the inn. And then it's time for the third and final part of the adventure, which is the Dungeon of the Dracolich, which is, again, huge Dwarven Forge layout underneath the table. I cover all of this later on in the video. So how do we then get underground? Well, skip ahead if you don't want to hear any fluff, but I want to get it all out there now so I don't forget any of it later. We have a situation here, folks. I mean, the village doesn't look too bad, right? But it is the integrity of the village is kind of falling apart, the infrastructure, I should say. The governor actually has been spending a little bit of the money that he earns from the fellow townsfolk to actually start working on a sewer system. They don't even have cobblestone streets yet, but he's working on a sewer system. I think probably because it's something that affects him not having one. While some of the surrounding communities are developing their own, that's something he decided to get involved in. This arena, this actual battlefield arena floor itself, while it is battle hardened, is actually a relic from the past. There used to be a grand fortress on this plot of land, and they held battles in their own arena. But something happened, and I think I'll discuss it when we actually... No, I don't think I'll get into too much of that detail, because you know me, I like to ramble on and on and on. But anyway, that's the last relic of a castle that's been torn down. The town kind of was built up around it, but back in the day, there were some arcane goings-on, and they may have cracked into something when they were digging underground to build the sewer system. And that's where the dungeon encounter will then begin. So that is Mirkwood Township. Not too bad. A little slice of life and a place where the players can come back to in between other encounters. And now let's go visit the Pirates of Murkwood Cove. All right, folks, here it is. This is one of the 2 scenarios in the Mirkwood Township encounter. This is scenario Pirates of Murkwood Cove. So this is a 8 encounter scenario. I won't go into all the details, of course, but the governor or someone speaking for the governor of Mirkwood Township would have seen one or more of the heroes do well in the arena tournament and approach them about something that's been going on. You know, the governor has been very lax. As long as his money doesn't jingle, it folds. Sorry, I apologize. As long as his coin purse is full. He doesn't care what's going on. And so he has been lax. Dock security, harbor security has been lax. Pirates have kind of almost built up a nest, like a rat's nest now, of smuggling goods and whatnot. So here we go. This is an 8 encounter scenario. I just have the figures put out here as it could be, but as I will also explain in the Dungeon of the Dracolich encounter, it's all randomized. We'll have a deck of 7 cards because the only fixed encounter is the Pirate Warlord himself as encounter 8. But the first 7 will have a deck of 7 cards and a table where, okay, first encounter, flip it over. It's a 2. Look at the table. Okay, a 2 happens to be 3 bugbear pirates. So that is how we're going to go encounter by encounter. So here's the first one. Next could be a foursome of swamp jellies, we're calling those, and corsair mercenaries, and of course little adorable frog folk warriors. We have shallow krakens. I try to come up with names different than the ones on the base of the figure, like what the D&D equivalent would be. I try to come up with a different name for Dicey Depths, like dark elf mercenaries. So that is one of the 2 encounters for the Murkwood Township adventure. This is Pirates of Murkwood Cove. And of course, after they get through all of these, fighting the war boss will be the boss of the encounter. And once that's done, it's back to the village, back to the marketplace, the blacksmith, back to the inn, the tavern, rest up, heal up. Because then we're going under here, folks. The Dungeon of the Dracolich is under there. And that's where we're going to take a peek at right now. All right, folks, and here it is, the table with the lid off and all of the coverings on, and just as you might expect, as I did with that original dungeon, pull one off and get started. So I will now uncover the entire thing. It'll be room by room by room by room all throughout, and then we'll take a look at everything uncovered and go room by room to show you what the Dungeon of the Dracolich actually looks like. Okay, folks, and here it is, what we have all been waiting for, what the dungeon itself looks like when completely uncovered. So let's say this is at the end of the session. Every room is going to be revealed, but let's go through it room by room. So our adventurers are going to start right down here in the sewers, where they are going to speak first with one of the sewer attendants from Murkwood Township. I put some cavern pieces with some water behind there, which I thought was kind of cool. But he's going to get taken out pretty quickly by an errant shot from probably one of these ratmen throwing a spear at him, which is going to lead into the first combat. But those aren't going to be the only vermin that they have to face in the sewers, because next up, oh yeah, we got the double-headed croc or gator. And then we see where the trouble has been taking place right there. There's one of the sewer grates that have been torn apart. I put a waterfall down here, but I did the same thing over here. So like water from above is flowing down in here, and that's what's able to flush the sewage through the sewer system. But of course, this wonderful transition piece, cavern piece, that has the dungeon wall on the other side. I love that piece. So that is kind of how people have creatures and beings have been able to get in and out of there. Next up, here it is. So these 2 encounters here are fixed. It's going to be ratmen, it's going to be gators. The rest, apart from the final boss, which we'll get to in a second, the rest is randomized. We'll have a deck of cards numbered 1 through 10, and I have a table. So when they enter into the storeroom, we'll flip over a card and see which of the things it is. And so that way, instead of rolling on the table where an encounter could be repeated, I have a deck of cards 1 through 10, flip one over and discard it. That way we have a unique encounter every time. In this case, it was a room of hobgoblins. through the rat-chewed doorway into the actual kitchen, where we have a room full of kobolds. There is a little storage room in here with a little chest, and we'll get back to what that is in a second. Either door, doesn't matter, leads into the Great Hall, the dining room, where we have a couple of rat bears, or bear rats. I can't remember what I'm calling them, but they are gigantic, like grizzly bear size, 6 feet rats, and a little room over here as well. So everyone always asks, where do you go to the bathroom in a dungeon? There it is. There's a restroom right off the Great Hall. But that is the dining room. Through this door, we will come into our first 4-way intersection. And of course, let me just remind you now, everything is covered with that black poster board. So we're lifting this up room by room. So we'll lift up the one covering the 4-way. Which way do we go? Well, if we go straight ahead, we get into the barracks, a room full of orcs. And another one of those chests in there as well. Again, we'll get back to that in a second. Left or right? Let's go left. But adventurers can go in any direction because we've set it up so that they will have to reach every single room anyway. So they'll have to backtrack if they miss something. So there is a Scortar. That's right, a Scortar. Centaur, Scorpion. That's a tier 3 encounter there. In the not Great Hall, in the entry room. Now we call this the campsite because this is where some scavengers had set up camp, and another one of those chests. But this used to be the main entrance down into this subterranean keep before it was sealed up. But if we went this way instead with this lovely portcullis, we would have the throne room, currently infested by some lizardmen. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, there have been some of these little journals. So there's a journal on the throne there. There's a scroll on the knapsack there, and one there. So I have written up pieces of paper, so anytime we find one of these, we'll read what it says on the paper. And there's a little thing over there behind the throne as well. We won't talk about that yet, though. Moving into the chapel, we have a room full of cultists and a book that can be read. Moving into this way, we have another couple ways we can go. We cannot go through here yet. It takes a key, but even the greatest locksmith can't seem to figure it out. It really has nothing to do with the key itself or the shape of the key. It's all about the material the key is made from, which we will then head into this room then, full of deep folk, is what I'm calling these, and the forge. So this is the blacksmith's setup in here. And then through this door, we have the torture chamber, also known as the dungeon, where the black mage waits. And he is a very cool figure, an old metal figure that someone else painted, but I picked up in a lot of old Dungeons & Dragons figures off of eBay. Into the warden's office, there's the warden's journal. Read that for some information as well. So what's going on? Well, eventually we're going to find out that in order to get into this locked chamber, we're going to need to smith ourselves a key made from certain ingredients. And one of these tomes is going to have the ingredient list. And we will have to have found the 4 ingredients. I've put them all in these boxes. So for example, in here is a preserved human heart. Every one of these boxes has a different ingredient in it. There are 4 total ingredients. Once we have all 4, we can then forge the key to get into this room. This was the Lord's Chamber. Now those lights back there won't be on yet. Right now there's a couple of Minotaur skeletons in here. But we will also have read somewhere about having to put the witches, oh, I guess I should say that. We will also have to have found this, the witch's head, on which we will put this onto the wall there. Those lights will then illuminate, and then these double secret, see how it looks like a wall? These double secret door walls will lift up, One there, and then one on the other side as well, to create the passageway through into the final chamber, where this guy won't be yet, but we will see this room and up through the chasm, which I built that chasm specifically so that the base of this guy would fit right there. And there is the Dracolich himself, or herself, and that is the final encounter. So folks, that is the entirety of the Dungeon of the Dracolich scenario as part of this, I don't know if you want to call it a 3-part adventure Dicey Depths situation, but that is the last of it. And then of course it's back off to town, assuming anyone survived. But that is it, folks. I just had an absolute blast putting this together. Someone may ask how much, because anytime I do one of these builds, it's which sets did you use, how much did it cost? Honestly, I have no clue. No earthly clue, because this is so, like, these sets were from so long ago. Most of this, obviously, we have the City Builder sewers. The rest of this is Kickstarter 1 dungeon pieces. We do have some of the newer Dungeon of Doom walls, but I just picked those up off the web shop. And I store all my Dwarven Forge pieces in big tubs, so I have no clue how many sets, how many pieces, what it cost, anything. But it was, I'll just say this though, it was a lot of fun putting it all together. But that is it, and I just hope that we have as much of a blast playing it as I did setting it up. But even if we don't, heck, it was worth it just to take a peek at this. Always have a fantastic time. One thing I will say is especially how nice this table is with the recessed playing area. Unfortunately, some of the furnishings and things are too tall. So when I put the lid on the table, as we're going to do when we're playing above ground, I have to store this stuff, you know, off and on its side. And then take the lid off the table, put everything... Well, no, I won't do that. I'll keep everything off and keep everything covered. Once we take the lid off the table, then we start room by room. And if I reveal a room that has stuff that needs to be put back on there, I'll do that then. All right, anyway, enough rambling. But otherwise, folks, thank you all so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it. And until next time.